All right, guys, here it is. It's your girl Cadillac. I am reviewing Africa Diaspora News Channel. This is the video put out yesterday. Girl, get me some lighting. It's about to get dark. Of CEO Robert Hockley on picking cotton in Texas prison, legal slavery, and glorifying prison. Okay, so I watched this. I'm sorry, the first video, my intro into the video basically cut off abruptly. So not abruptly, girl, I cut it off because my devices just ain't working right, girl. I ain't got no good lighting in this car, but and the sun about to go down. So let's get into oh my gosh, this is like an hour-long interview. So I am definitely not going to be able to cover it all in one video. So this is going to be video 2 of this. I'll try to finish some later. I don't know how I'm going to set that up, girl. But yeah, I really want y'all to hear this. Okay, let's get into it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got a good one for you today. Now, we got Brother Hockley here. Now Hockley can give you the experience of what it was like being in a prison and being a victim of the 13th Amendment. Now, we know the 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution bans private slavery but allows slavery by the state. So Hockley...
So it never completely abolished slavery. It just gave a stipulation. You can enslave somebody if the following. That stipulation has been exploited and exploited to the fullest to continue slavery.
Thank you for joining us today.
No problem, Fee. I appreciate being on the show, man. This is a pleasure being able to share my
former
experience
incarcerated
with your audience.
citizen.
All right, Hockley, tell us just a little bit about, you just, growing up and how you got to the point where you are put in a Texas prison.
Well, here in America, in the states, right, of America, man, they have a system set up of poverty. And it's a vicious cycle that we are stuck in. And what do I mean by poverty? I mean like a lack of resources, broken homes, and things.
Those things definitely are by design. If you talk to half of the people that are incarcerated and formerly incarcerated, most of them have very similar backstories. Very similar backstories of coming from one parent home, the home where the father's not there, not enough resources, mother trying to make it, trying to work, make ends meet, and the child get of a certain age. It's very hard to try to be the mother and the father. Y'all already know. That's why I feel like I just got out of that by the skin of my teeth. It is very difficult to be both, and especially to a son. The son needs their father. All of this is intricately connected like a spider's web, but we like to deal with the issues separately. We like to just say, black men just go to prison. They're just criminalized. But we don't want to look at the other parts of the web. Why? It is the why. That is always the most important question. It is not the what, really. It is not the who. It's not really even the how. It is why. Why do black men fill our prisons? And that's the part we never like to hear. We never like to address. We never like to, but a lot of it was manipulated to be that way.
Things like that they have put African American.
So if most of them head to prison, if you go back and speak to them, and the reason why is because lack of resources. Why are we not trying to put resources into the community? You solve a problem, like a math problem, by flipping it backwards. and working it out and seeing does it equal to what it equaled to when you had it the other way, right? So if you take the problem, right? The problem is the black men in prison. They're more criminalized. They're more violent. They're just, oh, we just got to lock them up, you know, because they're animals almost. So let's work the problem backwards. How did they become animalistic? How did they become violent? Black men babies are not born violent. They're not born committing crimes. So let's work that problem backwards. So since they're not born that way, but they pretty much end up, a big portion of them end up in prison, what is happening in the middle of the equation? Because that's your answer right there. What is in the middle? You got the beginning, you got the end. What's the middle? The lack of resources, the taking of the resources out of the community, the not putting the resources in the community. So once we get our communities together, they come break that on down and take them out. When you have people are pretty much, we're conscious. We're not like animals, but it's still we're still governed by nature, right? Survival. We're gonna survive. So when something is there threatening us, or something is, when food is scarce, when you can't find what you need to take care of your babies, you're gonna find a way. That's how a human is going to do. That's what an animal, that's what any living being is going to do. So when another entity is taking those resources, we go into survival mode. We go into survival mode. And a lot of black men and a lot of black people, period, live in survival mode. A lot of other people may live in survival mode, but they're not necessarily putting their full communities into survival mode. It's like when you're doing experiments, when they test one subject against another, what do they do that's different in one subject than another? They change things in the environment. They may feed one subject a different food. They may change the climate in one's, subject. They may make one subject, like they even do those sleep tests, right? Or even with medicine, they try one subject that did not have the medicine and one subject that did take the medicine. So the subject of the black man with all the lack of resources, if you flipped it and it wasn't the black man that you took the resources from, anybody put in that position would act the same way. It's a manipulation. But I don't know, we can't see that. We literally cannot see that. We're blinded to that fact, which that's fine, but I don't know. And also know that there is no way to control every single black person, every single black man. You can get majority to follow through, but there's no way to make all. So because you cannot make all think alike, you cannot say that all black men violent, all black men going to prison. All black men are not one man. They don't use, I'm a woman, I'm sorry. But we as black people, we don't use one singular brain. We all have our own brains, our own intellects, our own backgrounds. We come from different places, though it's believed that we all come from inner cities. We're everywhere, right?
System, social engineered this system to produce prisoners at the end of the day. And when I say prisoners, I mean, we heard of
you start training somebody. I'm a martial artist, right? brown belt. I didn't work my way all the way up. But I didn't just get up one day and was a brown belt. I was trained in how to be a brown belt. You don't just get up one day and go to prison. Oh, I need to go to prison. You are trained in that way.
School to prison pipeline, right?
Mm-hmm.
And school
About
is
third
an
grade.
institution just like a prison. You know, what do I mean? It's certain orders, it's certain disciplinaries, it's certain rankings, it's things like that that you're introduced at school. That when
And also, if we know that education is actually the opposite of criminalization, most educated people, I'm not saying all, I never say all, because I leave gaps for people to be different. But most educated people do not fall in those systems. So, if we know that education is the opposite, because education opens doors to opportunity, people with opportunity usually use their opportunities and make something of their opportunities, right? So why, if we know that most of the crime is coming from the black communities, why not educate the black communities? Why not put more resources into their education system so that we can prevent these criminalized, violent people from getting out and committing crimes? Why not do that if that is the case? That, you know, we need to prevent it. Prevention is always better than trying to cure something. It's better to prevent it.
you go to prison, you pretty much seasoned to listen to the white teacher, listen to the white principal, you know, because these are your instructors, these are your teachers, and these people become ultimately your guards, your wardens, your officers. Once you,
I love how they
prison.
illustrated
So,
this.
I was
They
studying
illustrated it.
poverty, here in America, and then like I say, poverty is a lack of resources, and by not having a lack of resources and being in a broken home, single parent home,
It's the setup. It's the perfect storm.
It led me to drugs. It led me to violence.
It's the
which
perfect
ultimately
storm.
led me to prison.
So, of course, they can't just birth you and just put you in prison. Well, they probably could. People would go along with it, but they don't, right? So what they do is kind of coerce you. They build the perfect situation so that most likely you yourself would go down that path. It's like, I don't know, I always like to find analogies. Like if there's several different paths, but we conveniently just block off all the other paths and you're trying to find a way through, we leave only that path open. Most times, people are not going to be digging with a shovel trying to get through the other side. They're going to go through the path that's already laid open.
Right? And here in Texas, they have over 109 prisons in the state of Texas. Now, when I say that number, it's like 109. Let's say on the average of 109 units, it's 1,500 people per unit. Mm-hmm. Right? So where that's put us in the ballpark of 1 million people? Mm-hmm. Am I right?
So,
and that is, it is always, most times when it comes to us, incarcerate over prevention and rehabilitation. They just feel like lock them up. Just lock them up. Just throw away the key, lock them up. Lock them up. That's the answer. Lock them up. It's like working up. If you had a multiple choice quiz and it was like, if such and such, what should you do? Lock them up. If such and such, what should you do? Lock them up. If such and such, what should you do? Lock them up. That's clearly not our answer though, because with all the people locked up, nothing's more safe. Community is not more safe. Florida is high in our incarceration rate. There are so many prisons. They're all in backwoods of Florida, everywhere. I am the 21-year prison wife. I have been visiting my husband, who is black and who is wrongfully incarcerated, wrongfully convicted, but assumed to be guilty because he's black. But he is in prison, right? And all the backwoods, I have visited my husband everywhere that you can think of, all over this state of Florida. There are so many prisons, right? And he's saying that actually, it used to be way less. Significantly more prisons are just popping up everywhere, and he'll give the statistics from the dates of when there literally was only a small amount of prisons in this country, and now there's exponential amounts of prisons. And what's more, now that there's even more prisons, exponential amount more prisons, even now Florida DOC is to critical capacity. They literally don't even have places to incarcerate the next that are committing crimes or that are going to be wrongfully convicted. So they don't have places to house people. Let me see if I could dig through my channel and find this one. I did an interview with an incarcerated citizen, and he said it was something very profound. He was like, time can change. It can sit you down and change you, really. But too much time just destroys you altogether. And that's literally what this state, specifically, well, the country, but specifically my state of Florida, did, was just sit everybody down. They signed up for everybody, like a lot of people, to do life sentences and long, archaic, dinosaur-like sentences. They got rid of parole back in the 80s. And then those that still do fall under that could be paroled out, they deny paroles all the time. People are getting old. They couldn't commit crimes if they wanted to commit crimes. They still are not aging out of the system. They're signing up to hold on to these people for life. For life. For something that they did or didn't do when they were a child. Marcello is in prison at age 41 years old, about to be 42, for something that he was wrongfully accused of doing at 19. And what's more, even if he had done the alleged crimes they got him down for, they sentenced him to more time for those alleged crimes. Those alleged crimes were only worth 10 years in prison. So why is it that Marcello is on his 21st year on his 40-year sentence? Who gets 40 years anyway? That I wanted to start comparing cases. A lot of these cases where people that outed folks, they done did this, you don't never hear 40. You barely hear 40. If you hear 40, it's usually somebody was unalived. Unalived. So why do Marcello Jackson have 40 years in prison? His full life, full adult life. Why is it? And there are people that unalive people, done time, and back out on the street to recover their lives. And Marcello still, he's only just about reaching halfway of his wrongful conviction, the halfway mark. So what makes Marcello Jackson's alleged crime so much worse than all these other people? Is it because he's black?
Times 100?
So each, let me go here. So each prison has, you say just 1,500 people, or each unit has 50?
Average. Each unit, a unit is a prison.
It is so many people
are
incarcerated.
units.
Okay.
They are referred to as farms. They also referred to as plantations.
Okay.
Right? So you have
Now in Florida, they call them camps.
110 of them, over 110 units or prisons here in the state of Texas. And on average, if you did an average for each unit, you're looking at 1,500 bodies per unit, which putting you what? 100 times 1,500? It's 1.5 million. Am I correct or am I wrong?
And if not, the mathematicians are correct there in the comments.
Yeah,
you know how that goes.
I just want to preference that also.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. I humbly come before your audience and the people. I'm not a scholar, right? I graduated 8th grade. The system say I dropped out. I like to say I'm an 8th grade graduate. I graduated 8th grade Central Middle School. I come humbly with an 8th grade education, but I also come with a degree in messing up, right? I come with 45 years of wisdom, 45 years of experience. And this experience and this wisdom that I'm sharing is about when I was 17 to I was 25 in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice.
And that is the age range. That is the age range that they are looking for to incarcerate. They even have where we keep coming up with these bills that where they could re-sentence people like Marcello Jackson. It is admitted that the sentencing statutes were very harsh, and that they have even said they're not going to sentence people under those statutes because of the harshness and because of the age range, knowing that the brain is not fully developed. But the one thing they always refuse, so the newest generation won't be sentenced to that law. That's why the newest generation literally can out somebody, go to prison, and literally get out before Mr. Marcello Jackson ever sees the light of day. But they never are willing to go back and retroact and fix the sins of the past. Fix what you did to other people. Fix what you did to the generation of the 90s and the 80s that are still festering in your prisons. You got to clean. I have a video where I liken the DOC in Florida to a hoarder's house. A hoarder cannot purchase nothing else. They don't even know what they have. They got too much stuff. And the first thing, a hoarder does not want to get rid of anything. Before you can continue to incarcerate people for whatever they may be doing, that's why people out here wilding now and ain't going to prison. They don't have nowhere to put these folks. That's why they tapping them on the wrist. Ain't because they don't want to sit them down. It's because they ain't got nowhere to sit them down. Right? But it's a hoarder's house, and they don't want to let anything go. They keep saying Florida prisons are to critical capacity, and they got bills to say, hey, maybe those that qualify for parole, can we see, are any of them really eligible? Maybe they've been rehabilitated. Maybe we got to try letting some of them go. Rejected. They got those saying, hey, we got a lot of people over sentenced in this state. Let's re-sentence them. At this point, as much time as they've done, we might be releasing some of them. But the scary part there, and I know nobody cares about rehabilitation of prisoners, but guess why you should care? Because if any of those ever go through and they have to release people because they literally have nowhere else to warehouse them, and you don't know this because you don't care because it doesn't affect you, but it does, but you think it doesn't, right? If they haven't been rehabilitated and they come back to your community, most likely they're coming back to reoffend. But had they been rehabilitated, they possibly would not have come back to reoffend. They possibly would have came back to be a contributing part of society. That's why we should care. Every one of us, those that feel like we're above the system, those that are in the system, and those that are below the system should care, because it affects us all. Whether we know it does or we don't know it does, it affects us all.
It's also referred to as the belly of the beast.
Well, let me ask you something, because you mentioned something I had to home in on. You say you grew up in a single parent household.
Single parent household.
Most.
Okay. So
Yep.
what happened to your father?
Nothing happened to him physically. What happened was,
Same thing. Marcello single, grew up without no father. That's usually their backstory.
as I grew older, I grew to understand it. My father
It's not
changed
always,
his
but
life.
sometimes.
He wanted a change of environment. Him and my mother, relationship-wise, didn't work, and he went on to another city and ended up getting married, ended up graduating college, ended up doing a lot of things to where once he did that, he could help me out later in life. But if my father is poor, my mother is poor, I can't help but be poor.
Hey,
Right?
hey, that's making those circumstances correct for the perfect storm. Why is our community always poor? Now, there's lies about that too. They like to tell you because we lazy. We don't want to work hard. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do nothing but be out in the street. That's not always true. There's a lot of us that are not lazy. A whole heaping bunch of us that are not lazy. That don't just want handouts. That don't just, so why are our communities still poor? Gotta ask these questions, y'all.
But he went off to find a way.
So when you started to get into, different things to get you in trouble, what age you felt your mom couldn't really control you no more? What age?
Well, I can remember a time when I was 12. I got arrested at 13, but I do remember a time around 12.
And you know what's so crazy? We know that having the man in our house, having a mother and a father, both parents, having both of your parents makes differences in children's lives. Why aren't we making that a focus to have both parents? Even if the parents ain't together, having both people in the child's life. I remember before my husband was wrongfully convicted, and I pleaded to this judge that my husband's literally bearing most of the grunt of taking care of us. What do I do and my child do once you take him away? What do we do? And that judge didn't care.